Go and vote. Nearly impossible, actually. But candidates do sometimes come along who can rally young voters. And Vivek Ramaswamy was one of those who seemed to really engage Gen Z. And there's a great column over at the Truth Gazette entitled The Vivek Lesson, What the GOP Must Learn from Ramaswamy on Gen Z. Earlier, we spoke to the author of that piece. His name is Brilyn Hollyhand, and he is the co-chair for the RNC Youth Advisory Council. And we asked him what the RNC needs to learn from Vivek Ramaswamy. Take a look.
Let's take a second and talk about Vivek. How did he go from being this no-name in politics to a potential vice presidential candidate in less than a year? I realized from my first sit down with him, the first time that he came on my podcast, that he actually truly wanted to bring change to our party. He truly wanted to abolish a handful of these government agencies, and he had a plan to do so, and I pressed him on it. He didn't just have TV talking points like some of these other politicians we hear from. He was genuine and he was real, and that's what really won my generation over. All we know is fake. We've got fake Instagram pictures, fake leaders, fake promises, but Vivek was different. He was genuine and he listened. He told it like it was, and he had real thought-out ideas. While his opponents were on traditional cable news getting their message out to our parents and grandparents, he was on TikTok getting his message out to us. So even though his candidacy wasn't necessarily successful this cycle, the way that he got his message out to my generation should be adopted by our party if we want a shot at winning this November.
Now, I think it's important to point out, no, you're not a junior or senior in college. You were in high school. So let's just put that on the table there. How did you get so engaged at such a young and tender age?
Yeah, absolutely, Terrence. So I first got interested in politics at the age of 10. I was in fourth grade. It was the 2016 presidential election. And I was just kind of paying attention at the time. I was just watching those fiery debates between Trump and Hillary. And I, was starting to realize that there was a lot of craziness going on in the country. But I said, the adults will handle it. My parents will handle it. My grandparents will handle it. It'll be okay by the time I grow up. Well, about a year later, I was 11. It was July of 2017. Trump had been in office for about 7 months. And I was still looking around at the chaos in the country, and the adults weren't handling it. And I said, well, if the adults weren't going to do it, I was going to step up and do it myself. So at the age of 11, I founded the Truth Gazette, my own conservative news service, to fight the fake news, to push back against this narrative that the accomplishments just in the first 100 days of the Trump administration, were overtaking the 8 years of an Obama administration. He was securing our border. He was protecting our nation. He was putting peace through strength. And I wanted that message to get out there. So I founded the Truth Gazette at the age of 11. I'm 17 now. I turned 18 this summer, just in time to vote in the most important election in American history. I'm so excited to be voting for President Trump. I was just with him a few months ago, and I got to tell him in person that I'd be voting for him for the first time. So that was a cool experience.
I so appreciate what you're doing and what groups like you and others do. My sons are actually all very engaged in the political process. But I get a little deflated when I hear the actual number of youth that turn out for elections to actually vote. And even in a general election, I don't have to tell you this, I'm sure everybody that asks you the same question I'm asking you now, but in a general election, even in state-by-state breakdowns, only a maybe 10 to 20% of those aged 18 to 29. And in my opinion, by the time you're 25, 26, 27, I had babies by then. I'd been paying taxes a long time. I had already started a company or two. So it's so disheartening to me, the low numbers of youth turnout, almost no matter what, even when it's somebody they really like. We remember back in the days when, what's his name was running. I can't even think of his name right now. I'm having a Joe Biden moment. But, even when there's somebody that really motivates them, they don't take it from the, here's what I believe, to the, here I'm going to vote place, right? So help us figure out how to get them motivated to actually go and vote.
Sure. I'll tell you two things, and I'll start with this one. Your son and I are really good friends, and he's doing a good job inspiring young people through social media. So hats off to him. You've raised a good one there.
Thanks.
But, really the cool thing that I've gotten this past year, everybody keeps asking me when I go on shows, where are you going to go to college? Where are you going to go to college? The cool thing I've gotten to do is do street interviews. I started this show called Brilyn on the Street Interviews, and I got to go on college campuses and directly put a microphone in my generation's face and ask them what their opinion is on politics. Again, y'all have done these before. You have no idea. If you're walking up to a Republican, a liberal, you have no idea. You're just walking up to a frat party at a college campus, and you can get any type of answer. And what I've been hearing from my generation is that they are desperate for change. Even liberals that I've talked to, they are desperate for change. And I'll tell you this, I just spent 2 back-to-backs in Des Moines, Iowa, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And in both cities, I hit the streets and talked to youth voters, any youth voter I can find on the streets. Again, not knowing their background, not knowing who they voted for in previous elections, not even knowing if they voted before, like you just mentioned. And every single youth voter in both cities told me that their number one concern going into November of 2024 is the economy. It's affecting us just like it's affecting our parents' and grandparents' generation. I was in Dallas a few weeks ago, and I told that story on stage, and I had an older gentleman walk up to me, and he said, "Your generation cares about the economy? What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, listen to this. We're paying for gas, we're paying for groceries, we're paying for food, we're paying for road trips. It's affecting us just like it's affecting our parents and grandparents. They're going to remember that." The other really cool thing we're getting to do is this time last year, the RNC had no outreach whatsoever with my generation. I reached out to the chairwoman. We had a good conversation. I've been critical of her. I've been critical of the RNC in the past. But since then, we have founded the RNC's inaugural Youth Advisory Council to be that stepping stone to reach out to my generation, to bring my generation to the table in Washington, D.C., to break the establishment narrative, to give my generation a voice. So this week, I'll be flying to Nevada in just a few minutes when I get off this Zoom to actually speak with Nevada voters, to speak with young voters in Nevada, to encourage them to get out to vote next week in their primary. It's so important. It's so important that we all get behind who will be our nominee, Donald J. Trump, and that we're united. We're 280 days out from this election. Like I said, it's so incredibly important that everybody in my generation gets out and votes.
Yeah, and we have to go, Brilyn. Oh, go ahead, Terrence. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say really quickly, you opened the door, so thank you. I'm going to walk through it. So you're heading to Nevada. What would be your message to the leadership there of the RNC, to the Ronna McDaniels?
That's
Obviously,
what I wanted
there's
to
going to
ask.
likely be... Okay, we're right here. There's going to be a push very likely to oust Ronna McDaniel. Do you support that push? What is your message to Ronna if you get a chance to talk to her personally?
Yeah, so I've had several opportunities to get to talk to her personally. And the funny story here of this is I was on this network a few months ago when I was speaking around the same thing, saying we've got to get a push from the RNC. We've got to get, this connection for the youth. And she happened to see that clip and reached out to me and said, "Okay, I'm listening. Let's start a council." So it was from an appearance on this network that she actually saw that sparked her attention to start this council. I've still been critical of the chairwoman since then. I spoke with her last night and was critical in some certain things. Look, my focus is on beating Joe Biden in 280 days. My focus is on being in Nevada to reach out to youth voters. Whatever happens at the top of the leadership is whatever happens. But my focus is on beating Joe Biden in 280 days. And whoever the chairwoman or chairman is of the Republican Party must understand that if we want any future as a party, they must be reaching out to my generation.
Well, you're really, really well-versed and ready for political life because you dodged that like a pro, Brilyn. we wish you all the best.
I was just thinking to myself, I got schooled by a high schooler.
Right, exactly. I say that as a wife of a former state senator, so no problems at all. Brilyn, we hope that you'll come back. We hope that you have a great time there. Absolutely. And personally, I think a lot of us in this audience anyway hope that y'all get rid of Ronna.